struggling to move your nonprofit forward? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect, where we are giving you the actionable steps you need to launch and grow your nonprofit organization. Now, here's your host, Travis Johnson.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the show. But before we get started, I wanted to give you all the opportunity to hop in our group at facebook.com/group/nonprofit architect. We're running a contest right now for your chance to win a $200 donation. We're not just building stronger nonprofits by giving you the actionable steps to do what you do better, but we're also putting our money where our mouth is. And if you sign up for the contest, and the rules are in the group, that you will get the chance to win a $200 donation and have a direct, real-world, real-time impact to your mission. If you're struggling with fundraising, if you're unsure of how to handle a board, if you're not sure where to go and what your next steps are because you have this endless list of things to do, you can also sign up for the Nonprofit Architect Alliance Mastermind Group. Real easy, real low barrier of entry at $50 a month to get in with other leaders like yourself that find themselves stuck. Help let other people in the group solve your problems. If you're doing this thing as a solo shop or without a lot of support from your board, it's hard to know who to go talk to. It's hard to know what to do next. And if you're doing this alone, chances are you're not going to get very far. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go as a group. So also in the group, sign up for the Nonprofit Architect Alliance Mastermind Group and let the experts help build your stronger nonprofit each and every month. Now let's go to the interview. Hey, I'm here today with Monica Stoneking, a certified virtual event planner and owner of SK Consulting. Monica, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, we're all limbered up. We're ready to go. We're having a fantastic fall day. It's like upper 70s here in Oklahoma City, just a gorgeous day. I hop outside for a few minutes between calls all day, but I'm glad to have you here today, and I'm so glad we connected. And we're going to talk about how to do virtual online events and what that means. But tell us what you do for SK Consulting before we get started.
So absolutely. I started SK Consulting 6 years ago to help the underdogs compete against the big dogs that have deep pockets. And majority of the time, nonprofits fall into that bucket. So I combined my personal passion of helping nonprofit organizations in my personal time and my professional life of strategic branding and marketing, and developed SK Consulting so that I started it about 6 years ago. I left the corporate world and figured that I could help a lot more organizations that don't have deep pockets, strategize and compete against the big dogs. And so what I do is help nonprofit organizations with limited budgets really come up with their branding and messaging and their strategy to positively promote their mission.
That's awesome. We've had quite a few branding and marketing people on this podcast, but it always seems that we find something different and something that's really specialized on each different person. I know that you really love doing virtual events, and this is kind of the year for it. Did you get started this year, or have you been doing virtual events for a while?
We've done webinars and some conferences and stuff, but nothing to the magnitude of what we were forced into doing this year. And thankfully, we kind of got a heads up in February that something big was happening. There was a shift because we were working with somebody that was from Spain, and he noticed what was going on in his country. So I went and got certified as a virtual event planner. And what that means is you attend various webinars and conferences and Zoom meetings to kind of do a checklist of everything that is needed that can be thought of to making an event successful. And it could be anything from just a little happy hour to a large scale conference. There was an organization here in Kansas City that was holding their largest virtual event or largest fundraising event. And we had 3 weeks to move it over to a virtual event. And they had live dancers coming in. It's their big thing. And they were going to cancel it. We said, no, let's get to work. We got live tape of the dancers. We got live tape of the MCs. We put it all together. We played producer, director. So it was like a 2-hour production that people still had the exclusive rights to. What this group did was they got a drink for the evening, an appetizer of the evening, and we encouraged everybody to make it and share it. And then they took pictures of themselves. They shared it on social media. We had a hashtag, and then it was available for a week. So if somebody wasn't able to attend that evening, there still was an opportunity to pay that $75 and enjoy the show. They wouldn't enjoy the engagement that we offered, as well as the appetizer and the drink. I mean, they could make that, but it was all about being unique. It was all about the concept. Everybody that was going to the event initially wanted to see the dancers. They wanted to hear from the MC. They wanted to enjoy great food and talk to one another. Could we still do this? And what platform would we use? And how do we promote it? And are people going to buy in? So instead of just going full gusto and putting together everything, we asked the biggest supporters, is this something that you can get behind? This is what it's going to look like. This is how it will play out. And it was a resounding yes. So once you get the idea, you have to have a plan. Just like in any brand strategy or marketing strategy, you can't just host a virtual event, because that's like having a billboard in the desert. It could be a beautiful billboard. It could be designed by the best designer in the world, but nobody's going to see it if you don't drive people to it. And if there's not a reason for them to drive that route to get to their destination.
I think that's so cool how you guys came up with the idea of really creating a cocktail hour where someone has the signature drink of the event, how to make it, and they have it well in advance so they can get everything together. And then a signature appetizer too. So you're not getting one of those rubber chicken dinners that people complain about all the time. You have this good way to get engaged and actually talk to people before the event gets going. That is really cool. I really love that idea. Is that something you learned while getting your certification?
Yes and no. I've hosted a lot of happy hours. I'm proud to say I've hosted a lot of happy hours and those type of in-person events, and you just hear people talking. So the point of the virtual happy hour is to still get people talking, but what are they going to talk about? So the first icebreaker is, if you're making them make this cocktail, or if you're making them make this appetizer, what's the first thing you're going to say? Is mine turned out like crap, or oh my gosh, it's delicious. So you start talking like that, and people will get to know one another. Like maybe one of them is a renowned chef or something. And for the next event, if it's in person, you're going to need that person to actually make you a great meal. But it's all about engaging in unique ways. Right now, especially with everything going online, people are getting stuck in that Groundhog Day moment where it's, I wake up, I go on a Zoom call, and we're going to talk about this, and then I go and I take a break, and then another Zoom call, and you want something that people look forward to. So if it's 6:00 at night, and it could be a small happy hour of 15, 20 friends if you want. It doesn't necessarily need to be a fundraising event. Give them a reason to come to this happy hour. Give them a reason to come to this Zoom happy hour, or whatever platform you are using. And if it can be, you guys are going to play a virtual game. Like an example of that would be Kevin Hart has a show called Celebrity Game Face on right now. It's all virtual. It's all Zoom, like we are doing right now. But he gets celebrities on, and they're talking. You get to see the inside of their house. You get to see how a celebrity couple that's been cooped up together for 6 months is acting and what they have to say. So you have to find a reason for people to click on that link to come to your virtual event, whether it's a webinar, which you should have a whole agenda and a whole promotional plan for that webinar, or if it's a happy hour of your biggest donors, or your board or whoever it might be. Give them a reason to come and click on that link.
Oh, absolutely. Earlier this year, I was in Kingdom of Bahrain, and I ended up hosting trivia at the big Texas and Waffle House there. And it was a lot of fun. And then COVID happened, and we were kind of tasked to how do we keep the fun up while we're stuck apart, just like everyone around the world was. And we found an online trivia hosting platform, and we created questions. And it's a little bit different, right? You're not in the bar. You're not getting the great and fantastic food at Big Texas. But you can win free pizza from their sister company, Red Plate, across the street, or you can win discounts to it. So people would, you'd have the reminder throughout the week, hey, make sure you order your pizza so you can enjoy it during the trivia. And then, of course, because we're out in the middle of nowhere, everyone had their own personal cocktail. We didn't have like a cocktail of the week, but I love the design and sound of that. But you would log on, and there would be different teams, and some would meet together in a living room, and they'd have their pizza or their food out, and everyone would have their cocktail, and we would host trivia and just have a good time as a way to connect during these times where there's not a lot to look forward to if you're stuck in the Groundhog Day, like Monica was saying.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we're working with an organization. It's a grassroots organization in Florida, and their donor base is very, very small. And so they wanted to come up with an idea for a fundraiser this year, and they have no budget. I mean, they are like a lot of other nonprofits where there is small to zero budget. And so what we are actually doing is a national virtual talent show. So we are setting it all up right now where participants pay $25, which is tax deductible. They get a custom, and this is the name of their organization, Go Make Someone Smile. Great. So they get a custom Go Make Someone Smile face mask with the big old smiley face right in the middle of the mask, which is perfect. So they're getting that already, but it's a tax deduction. And oh, by the way, you can win some prizes. Well, we're promoting that right now, and we haven't solidified the grand prize, but that's okay. It still gets people interested in, oh, wait, there's a national talent show that I don't have to go through ABC, NBC, or all the corporate yahoos. And it's benefiting an organization, a nonprofit organization that's doing great work. So all they have to do is record themselves somehow, upload it to whatever platform, and then email us. Email the organization, and then we put it on their website, and America decides who the best is. The reason we wanted to start promoting it now is because what's coming up, the holidays. What do people want to talk about? If they're going to actually spend time with the family, if they're able to, well, if they've been quarantined with them for 7-8 months, it's like, wow, there's turkey. Okay, let's talk about that. Well, no, now they can talk about, okay, Bobby Jane, that is a name, I don't know, is really wanting to do this talent show. Let's all do it as a family. Or, hey, we'll record you doing this or whatever. And they can start coming up with ideas. So if somebody is a great singer, okay, let's record them singing. And then they can have something to talk about over Christmas. Like, oh my gosh, did you see so-and-so is up on Go Make Someone Smile's website, and we're voting right now. So all the family and friends go and vote. They could put it in their Christmas cards, but the drawing or the winner isn't announced until January 11th. But all of that money they are getting before the end of the fiscal year. So they're getting sponsorship dollars, they're getting registrant dollars. And then, hey, if you don't want to participate in the talent show, we're still asking for donations for our mission. So it's not like they're just asking for an end of year handout. That's the biggest thing that I want nonprofit organizations to know. Not only are we all stuck in this pandemic where people are really pinching pennies, so you'll be lucky if you get as many donations as you did last year, not only because of the pandemic, but everything has gone virtual. So how can you do an end of a year appeal? So that's another big topic. But how can you also acknowledge the fact that you are not doing your in-person meet and greets and handshaking and smoochy, donate to us, and it's all virtual. How can you tie that in? Well, don't just do emails. You don't want to just do email campaigns because everybody's inbox is flooded with other stuff, other announcements of how everybody's gone online now. So make something interesting. Make something that makes people want to engage and click. That's the biggest thing. Why are people clicking on your link to do whatever? So that's another big thing. The virtual event certification, yes, is for events, but it's also the mindset. How can you change how you ask your donors for money? It doesn't have to be in a brick and mortar building. It doesn't have to be a big to-do, but it has to be something that's engaging and unique and different. Well, unique to our world right now. So we had a lot of experience in the first couple months of this pandemic where you saw Netflix was skyrocketing in their revenue because people, what do we watch? What do we do? There's no new programs. And you saw the Walmarts of the world shifting like, oh, we've got online shopping, curbside pickup. And you saw all of these corporations shift very, very quickly. They have the dollars and the resources to be able to do that. Nonprofit organizations don't. So we need to think smart. And while we're 8 months in to this pandemic, it's not going away. And if the shift hasn't been made already, it needs to be made before the end of year appeal. And that is an event in and of itself. And it does all need to be done virtually. It should not be done with mailers where people still don't trust opening up their mail right now. And that saves money if they don't do the direct mail piece and they do a virtual something to get people engaged and wanting to spend money on their organization.
I love the idea of an online talent show. That is just a lot of fun. And speaking of videos, there's people out there right now, they're like, man, I don't have any talent. But everyone's got that video on their phone of their buddy doing something dumb. And you could host a version of America's Funniest Home Videos in the same exact way as you'd be doing the talent show. That was the first thing that popped in my head. I love it. Yeah. It's fun. It's engaging. It's something different. And different is what we need right now.
Well, even videos of your dogs. I mean, speaking of dogs, I had dogs in the background earlier. So even if it's something funny that your dogs did. I mean, we call it a virtual talent show because people recognize that. They recognize talent. There is nothing funny right now about what's going on in the world. And we don't want to put funny in a title to something that is very serious for the organization, which is to raise money for their mission, which is to provide medical assistance, for financial assistance to those who can't pay their medical bills, and providing medical equipment to those who can't pay for the necessary medical equipment that they need. So
make someone smile.
Let's go make someone smile. And they are specific to St. Augustine, Florida. But what's great, and we were going to touch on this earlier, what's great about virtual is that there are people that live in Chicago who may have used to live in St. Augustine. I used to live in Chicago. Now I'm in Kansas City, but I also used to live in Michigan. So I have ties to a lot of different places. If somebody was inviting me to a brick and mortar fundraiser in Ann Arbor, Michigan, well, I can't go. I'm not going to pay the money for a flight and for whatever. But if they did a virtual event saying, your dollars help us with our mission, XYZ, well, I know their mission. I may live in Kansas City, but I can still support them. Mm-hmm. And another big thing is the younger generation. I mean, I'm young. But the younger generation is all virtual, all online. You can't get their attention. I mean, their faces are in their computers, on their iPads, on their cell phones or whatever. That's how you get to the younger generation. You find that messaging that really speaks to them and you get them clicking into your website or wherever and get them invested. And if you get the younger generation invested and you stay true to your promise as an organization in your deliverables, then you're going to have a donor for a lifetime. So the messaging should actually be a little different. If you're targeting the younger generation, there should be some of those buzzwords that the millennials love so much. Just something to attract them. What's going to attract them to your website or to your cause is completely different than the 65-year-old donor. So whoever is doing the marketing strategy really needs to understand messaging and branding for a virtual event or for any type of event before pushing out in marketing, because one size does not fit all when it comes to marketing your event, your brand, your virtual webinar, seminar, happy hour.
Well, yeah, you're bringing a good point, because we have multiple generations that are able to get online and participate, especially in something like a virtual event. But how would you suggest someone adjust their messaging or their marketing to hit boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z?
So it's really looking at which one is going to most benefit you. So say you are AARP. I mean, they have a lot of backers, so it's not like they need my help in their promotion, but their target audience is 55 and up. They know exactly who they're targeting. However, people like me who are not 50 yet are getting calls from them. So they have a window of people that they are targeting, but they're not saying, hey, renew your AARP membership, or are you not getting the senior benefits that you deserve? So they know from 65 or 55 and up, there is one type of message. Those people already know they're seniors. They should already be enrolled in a plan that benefits them. And if they aren't, then AARP has got the solution for them. But for the people that 5-10 years until they can enroll in AARP, they're in your head. They're already leading you to think of AARP when you turn 55. Well, the same is with messaging for a nonprofit organization. So say you provide, let's just say, medical assistance, financial aid. Well, why do the millennials care about that? They don't. I mean, right now, health insurance, healthcare is huge in the political realm and everything. They're tuned out. They don't care. What they want to know is who is hurting right now? How is it impacting them? So the messaging should be, what if you were in a car accident? Do you have the resources that you need to be able to provide for medical care? Did you know, and provide the statistics of the dollar amounts that it costs without insurance, and then maybe what it costs for the best healthcare coverage that they could imagine, and say, are you in a position to handle these bills? If not, that's what we're here for. And you can apply for medical assistance through our organization. We don't discriminate, blah, 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 XYZ. Well, then you've got the middle classers, but the middle classers are the ones who donate the most. And people like my demographic is the most philanthropic and the most giving. There's a certain income class that it actually research shows is the most giving. So for those people, you really push you're not quite ready for Medicare and all those senior benefits that we should be enjoying in our later years. But here's the message. There's these kids, you got to throw kids in there, that are suffering. They're not getting their medication. They're not getting, or Bobby Joe didn't get her asthma treatment, or she needs a ventilator, or she needs XYZ, or she will die. And I know that sounds morbid, but there needs to be a sense of urgency to cut through all of the other asks that people are asking for. So for me, I want to know where my dollars are going toward. So I would encourage all nonprofit organizations to not just make asks. They need to determine where is their money going to, and how can we position that best for the millennials versus the middle class 40-year-olds, and then the seniors. The seniors, it's going to be something about just their everyday life, the enjoyment, the fulfillment of. Like, we do this so that our customers, for lack of a better word, our benefactors can live a long, prosperous life. They can enjoy everything, their grandkids, their whatever. So speak to them. For middle classers like me, it's literally Jane could die if she doesn't get this medical equipment. And your $5 will help pay for XYZ. The organization that does it the best is the Humane Society. I mean, Sarah McLachlan, everybody knows. Once you hear her, there's going to be sad puppies, but they explain to you where the dollars are going. And that's a huge point to make, whether it's a virtual event, a brick and mortar event, a happy hour. If you are making an ask in any way, they need to know why. Why should I donate? And where is my money going to? And how? How can they donate? How can they help? They might not have the money, but they can volunteer. They can be your ambassador, and they can spread it to all of their contacts.
Oh, absolutely. And I know most of my target audience is startup nonprofits, but this is an important conversation because you may have a certain demographic that you're asking for money from today. But as your organization grows and matures and changes, you need to know how to speak to people in different phases of their lives. Right now, we're on election season, and there is tons and tons and tons of push for teenage targeted to get them to register to vote. So like, I think it's like 18 or 17 to like 25 to get them in the mindset to thinking about that your call, it's your right, it's your voice, it's your vote, and to get out there and do that. And they have to continually tweak these things as people grow and mature. And there might be a message out there for people in their mid to late 30s and into their 40s, but like, are your kids registering to vote? This is an important election, and every election is an important election, but they're going to have those different messages based on the phase of life, not just age, but family demographics. Are you mid-30s and a single professional, and you are a hotshot lawyer in New York, and you are on your own and you're still living that life? Or are you in your mid-30s and you have a spouse and 2 or 3 kids and a mortgage? And what does your life look like? And how can my messaging as an organization reach that person where they are?
So I would say that one of the biggest things that anybody needs to do before doing any type of marketing, or before even doing starting up a business or starting a nonprofit, is to do your research. I mean, it sounds simple, but a lot of people don't understand what that entails. And you do need to understand, if you are, say you're starting a nonprofit and you want to do great things, like, just for an example, say I want to start up an animal rescue. I can't just, I'm going to do a website and social media platforms and boom. I mean, obviously you have to file for a 501c3, you have to do all of that stuff, but I need to know what else is going on in my area. And I need to know who has donated to them, who in the past. What is that median demographic, that sweet spot that we need to hit? Because that's who you should focus on, but you don't want to forget the outliers. So you have to have secondary messaging as well. But most important, you need to know your brand. What sets you apart from the other thousands? Kansas City is a very, very competitive nonprofit landscape. So before you start up anything, you need to know your why. If you don't know your why, nobody else will. And if you don't understand what you do, nobody else will. So you have to really believe in what it is you want to do. So that's the idea. And that goes with the virtual event too. So we're tying this all in together. You have to have an idea that can be backed up by research. Because if not, it's just an idea and you've thrown it against the wall and you see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, you just wasted money that could have gone to successfully launching your business or successfully having a successful fundraising campaign. So once you come up with the idea, then you do the research, then you put it into action. You start slowly dripping, seeing the interest, which is what we're doing with the talent show. We're doing it far enough out that we can tweak things as we go along. You don't just put all of your eggs in one basket. If you're a marketing professional and you do that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. because just like right now, the landscape is virtual, mostly virtual. If you're not flexible with how you are marketing your business, then you're just going to fail. So your brand needs to be able to be flexible. Your services need to be able to be flexible. So once you do that, you do the research, you do the drip, and you're coming up, you've got your colors, your name, your logo, your everything all solidified. Then it's the how. How are we going to promote it? Well, again, you need to look at what have your competitors done. What have they done that's successful? What have they done that has stuck out in your mind that you're like, man, I wish I would have thought of that, and build upon it and make it better and greater. So the key for any, especially nonprofit, is to stand out, to stand above. That's how I say it. Because if you don't stand out,
got a lot of people message me and they talk about, well, why do I have to do advertising? Why do I care about branding? I was like, do you know who Coke and McDonald's are? And they're like, of course. I was like, if those two companies are still spending millions and billions on advertising to keep up their brand awareness, don't you think you might have to spend some dollars in marketing and brand awareness?
Well, and people, especially now during the pandemic, and I have a whole presentation on marketing during a pandemic, but if you don't advertise, people forget about you. What's the one thing people are doing right now? They're online. They're watching TV. So you can change your message. You don't just pull your ads because they were stock ads that you've run for 6 months. You change them. So I give the example here. Not too long ago, I was in a pretty bad accident. And my husband didn't know. I mean, obviously it was scary and whatever. But there is an attorney, a local attorney, that has been advertising throughout, I mean, even more so during this whole event, tweaking his ads. And he's got masks on and he's compassionate and showing like, oh man, during these times. And even though I hate unprecedented times and I want to punch somebody in the face if they say it again, his tagline was, I've got this. Mike's got this. So my husband ended up calling him, and their team is phenomenal. So they have followed it up. They backed it up with great customer service and great service. So if you're not there, and we say the same thing about people that don't want to have a website or startups that want to just do their business on Facebook, people will notice if you're not there. If you are not contributing to the digital landscape, it's not just Google who sees that. Your potential customers see that as well. So do nonprofits have to spend money? Yes, ideally. I mean, even if it's $100. Just so that you can grab that research of the demographics too, because when you're doing a Facebook ad, you can target it down to who you think your target audience is. Well, if you're not seeing any return, then you're probably wrong on who your target audience is. So you need to shift it. You don't have to spend as much as McDonald's spends. You don't have to spend as much as Coke and Walmart's and all that the big corporations spend, but you do have to spend something to be noticed, or else you are just advertising to your supporters. You've already got them. So that should be a whole other communications plan where you are talking with them and engaging with them on a regular basis. But to grab the new ones, you've got to be creative, you got to be unique, you got to tell them why, you got to tell them how, and you've got to actually be in front of them. And you're not in front of them if you're not expanding your reach.
Yeah, and one of the ways to help do that is by creating content. And when you say something like creating content, people start to freak out a little bit. I mean, you got to create content. Well, like this podcast you're listening to is content. I meet wonderful people like Monica, and we have a little pre-interview. We talk about all the cool stuff. That's why I first learned about the virtual happy hour, the signature drink, and the signature appetizer. And I thought that was really cool. And I also thought that was something that you all needed to hear. But if you notice, over time, my engagement with a guest goes up as my experience goes up. I don't have all of the content. I rely heavily on the guests that I interview to bring in good quality stories. And I thank you so much, Monica, for doing that. That's just one piece of content. You could host a blog, and the blog could be you writing it, right? Or it could be your supporters writing about whatever your thing is. If you care about veterans and PTSD, you're going to have access to thousands of people, thousands of bloggers that are interested in having their blog shared or co-hosted. And people can come to your website more than once, more than just to read your digital pamphlet and hit donate. And you can go back and listen to my interview with Stephen Kuhn on this. You have to have a reason for people to come back, whether it's your website, your social media, or both. And if you're not engaging with them, you've lost them, like Monica said. But you don't have to be the only one doing this. If you're on, say, just Facebook primarily right now, you can share articles that talk about the thing that you care about or the thing that your mission focuses on. You don't have to be the only one that comes up with new content. Should you come up with your own content? Absolutely.
Yep.
You should talk about what you're doing in the community. You should talk about engaging with the local politicians or at the state or federal level, depending on what you want your mission to look like. You can be like, hey, this is how we've partnered with this organization in the area to redouble our efforts and work together on this mission. Here's what we're doing, and here's what we're going to outline. Would you want to partner with us? You can ask people questions, but you have to engage, or people will not have a reason to know who you are, and they will have no reason to come back. Give them a reason to know who you are. Keep doing the good stuff and give them a reason to come back, and you become the hub of that information and the focus of that mission because you are creating content so they can come back and see it just from you.
And I'll touch on that too. Customer experience is a big thing. If a donor has a bad experience, just like any customer, they're not going to come back. If they weren't thanked properly, if they weren't engaged properly, they actually could go and tell a lot of people not to donate to your organization. So you give them a reason to come, and you engage them, and you give them a reason to come back. The problem with startups, or the problem for startups and new nonprofit organizations, is how do they get people to come to their website? How do they get people to like their Facebook page? And one easy thing to do while they're building up their social media calendar or their content calendar and getting bloggers and podcasts and stuff like that is testimonials. Get a testimonial from a donor of why they donate to your mission. People don't want to hear the executive director say how great they are. They want to hear somebody else say how great they are. Get a testimonial from a benefactor. So we used to say a couple of years ago that a great testimonial from a customer is worth about $1,500 in advertising. Because again, somebody else is saying something great about this organization. It's not the talking head. It's not the PR person. It's somebody else. So I would say the first plan of attack, while you're doing that research, while the startup or the new organization is doing that research on their demographics, they also should reach out to the people that have already expressed an interest or have benefited or engaged with the organization. And it's a simple ask. Hey, we're just starting up and we're wondering if we'll be sure to thank you or promote you as well. Not just a handout. You never want to ask for just a handout. People want to know that they're getting something for their time, for their words, for their name. And it's okay. It's okay to be blunt and ask. And those handful of testimonials are content that you can push out on social media. Say, don't take our word for how awesome we are. Here's Bobby Joe, who says that we're a pretty fantastic organization as well. And then you put that link to the website and get people there to engage.
Absolutely. People donating to you want to know that they're providing an impact. And sometimes their words, sometimes it's their money, sometimes it's their connections. But let them know the impact they're providing and how wonderful you feel about their contribution. Monica, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people get a hold of you?
How can they get a hold of me? They can go to stonekingconsulting.com, or they can always call me. My phone is open to anybody, especially telemarketers, apparently. But my phone number is 816-808-9101. And I'm happy to chat with anybody who is just needing some help or guidance on where to go. nobody really knows where we are going. And what I like to say is we're all in different ships. We're not all in this together. We're all in different ships weathering the same storm. So how we get to our end goal is up to the captain of your ship, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
You've been listening to The Nonprofit Architect. To listen to all our past shows, visit http://nonprofitarchitect.org. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Thank you.